Go. There we go. That should sort it. Hopefully you can hear me now. What an embarrassment. That's not the first time that's happened on a stream before. Good job I looked at the chat before I started rambling on for 10 minutes. Can you hear me now? Hopefully. Yeah. Sounds like it. Thank you, chat, for saving my bacon there. Um, yeah. So I guess I should restart everything I've just said for the past, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute. Basically, I was saying hello, and then I was saying like, oh, well, that was quite an interesting sprint quali. Like I wasn't actually expecting Max Verstappen to get pole whilst we were watching him, whilst we were on board. And he was a little bit wriggly through that chicane area into the back straight and down the back of sector three, but he still managed to get pole by 10th after a really good lap from Leclerc. To be fair, after not really participating at all in the first practice session. So yeah, really great effort there from Leclerc. Also a great effort from Daniel Ricciardo, like P4, like that's pretty remarkable. I mean, obviously we've come straight out of of the sprint quali, straight into this stream, so we haven't had any like feedback from any of the drivers or anything. We don't know exactly what happened, but I have to imagine. I think Lando Norris did made a mistake in sector one, right? Because he was like, I'm pretty sure Verstappen did like a 29.0 in sector one, and then Lando Norris was on like a 29.8 or something. So he's almost a second down in sector one. Surely Norris has made a mistake somewhere in sector one, which has put him way off. I actually think Norris could have been competing for pole there. Would have been really interesting. In fact, yeah, you can see he's 8 tenths down here looking at the timings, and I'm pretty sure he lost like a massive. Oh, I've just lost. Sorry, something's gone wrong. Thanks, F1. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. Norris must have made a mistake in sector one, but I haven't actually seen any replays yet. Let's just bring it back here from the results. Unfortunately, it's this ugly format that we can read it in, but yeah, just so we can get an idea of what's going on. That's practice one. We don't even have the sprint results. Okay, let's just ignore this then. Let's just jump to the team. This is my team left over from China. Obviously, I used Limitless last week, which went pretty damn well, to be fair. Have a quick look at that, just to marvel at this wonderful score, 456 points. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm not going to go too much into decision making for Limitless, but bottom line is I went for it in the end 2 weeks ago, and I think a lot of people will be thinking about using it this week as well. And I guess I haven't looked at the chat really, apart from the "you're muted" part of it. But I do think that a lot of people will be asking questions like, should I go Limitless? If I'm going Limitless, what should be my team? That sort of thing. So I'll have a think about that in the stream. But I will actually just pop over to the chat first and foremost, just to see what's going on. Oh, by the way, I've got my Miami like gear on. You can see that. Nice. It's like the closest to Miami clothing I can get, with like the sunset and everything. Just thought I'd yeah, get on with the Miami vibe. Let's have a look. Limitless. Yep, straight away. First question in the chat is pretty much from Doom Pirate. So Limitless, Red Bull, Ferrari, and who? McLaren were terrible in the soft, sliding everywhere. Yeah, I mean, if anyone, because obviously I'm not currently watching Sky Sports News or Sky Sports F1 at the moment, so I'm not watching any like replays of what happened. But if anyone's got any information in the chat as to exactly what happened in the sprint qualifying 3 for everyone in the top 10, because everyone just, like the fact that Verstappen literally said lol when he was told he was on pole just kind of says it all already. So Danny Rick and your underlying team. Yeah, I mean, Danny Rick, what a great performance there from him, P4. Like, it's really impressive. I had a good vibe about him. Like, I was watching the F1 weekend warm-up thing last night, and Danny Ricciardo's been interviewed, and he gave up like that. I don't know, for a long time we've been seeing Danny Ricciardo like almost squirming under the camera and just looking a bit depressed and unhappy, but I picked up on he had this like real underlying positive vibe. Like, he's always got the positive face on, but he actually had like positive feeling coming through in that interview yesterday, and it's showing in his performance today. Really impressive from Ricciardo. Will he be able to maintain that position in the sprint? I don't know. And also, come the Grand Prix, if he's going to qualify that well again over a longer period of a Grand Prix race, like 3 times the length of a sprint, will we see him drop back? That could spell some potential bad news for Ricardo owners. I don't know, so I'm not sure how other Ricardo owners feel about that. I don't personally own him. It could be a weekend where he scores reasonably well if he's able to hold position, but it also could be a rough one. I don't know. Yeah, so again, a couple of questions going in there about Limitless. If I was running Limitless, my first feelings are that the Red Bulls and Ferraris still look kind of like the strongest. I can't. The trouble is, I can't actually like get the team up in here. But I would obviously start with something like this, get Verstappen in there, and then obviously past this, I can't actually get any drivers in because it won't let you put them in over the cost cap. But I'm pretty sure I'd have Leclerc in there, particularly after that, fantastic qualifying performance, getting the P2. And then past that, I think Sainz is probably, to be honest, they're probably going to end up the same team that I went Limitless with in China, for similar reasons, really. I think they are just kind of the 5 best drivers and the 5 best packages at the moment. So yeah, I think if I'm running Limitless, if I was running Limitless, I'd be doing pretty much triple Ferrari, triple Red Bull, and probably Lando Norris. I think it might have been a different story if the third part of qualifying had gone a little bit differently. Because, like I said, I do think Norris. I'm not entirely sure what happened to him there, but I feel like he was on contention for a pole. He got was it, I think pole and was it even sprint pole in China, wasn't he? So yeah, I do think that Lando Norris and the McLaren upgrades are bigger than I expected as well. Like there's a whole host, 9 big changes, and Zach Brown was on the radio to Crofty in the during the qualifying saying that I think his exact words, a substantial upgrade. So it's a bit more than just the noticeable upgrade. It's substantial now. I think it's pretty clear to see. It's just I'm not entirely sure what happened towards the end of qualifying there, but nevertheless, when after watching the first 2 parts of qualifying, Lando Norris just like P1, I was already like considering for my own team, like how can I wheedle in, like I have to drop like Lance Stroll, how can I like wheedle in the McLarens because they look so strong, and then I was like thinking of doing this. And I was thinking, like, I don't know, maybe we could put in a Sonoda. He's starting in, P15, I think. And then if you believe in Ricciardo, perhaps you go Ricciardo and go over a team like this, and suddenly this becomes, like, the new meta. But, of course, you're going without Max Verstappen, so I don't really want to do that, because my overall feeling is that I probably want to go with the Verstappen build, even though it feels wrong. But, I'm already going off topic a little bit. In terms of Limitless, like I say, I think seeing the performance in the sprint quali, the Ferraris still look like the second best team, but McLarens are really, really hot on their heels, if not potentially better, particularly on the medium tyre. Not sure what went on between the medium changing to the softs. McLaren seemed to struggle a little bit. So yeah, there was a moment in time when I was thinking, oh, maybe like we want to triple up on the McLarens or whatever. But yeah, if you're going Limitless, I think the best option is still definitely triple Red Bull. I think it's triple Ferrari, and then I think Norris is still the best option. So pretty much, like I say, the run back of what I was running last weekend, so it literally looked like this, and you're probably looking at a similar sort of score providing everything goes according to plan this weekend. In Miami, in terms of the sort of track it is, we had no DNFs here last year. I think we had 1 or 2 DNFs the year before, and we've only raced here twice before anyway. This is only the 3rd year we've been there, so in terms of like safety of using the Limitless chip, I think it's relatively safe, although it is still a street circuit, and it does have that wall section where people have already been bashing into it through qualifying. And I remember last year as well, during the actual race, I think it was Perez and maybe a couple of other drivers as well. A couple of the drivers were like banging into that. If you go into that slightly too heavily, then it could be like a real problem. It could cause some real damage. So yeah, there is a slight concern there. There are a couple of little tight, twisty bits. Turn 1 we saw in qualifying what happened between Bottas and Piastri. That might be like some foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the race or the sprint and in Grand Prix. Who knows? But yeah, it's not looking great at Sauber, is it? Like that looks pretty dodgy. Like the brand new race engineer that was just dropped on Bottas without his consultation, and then apparently by the sounds of it, the engineer just didn't even inform Bottas in time that Piastri was coming up behind him, and Bottas just blindly turned into the corner. Like that could have been really nasty. And it's actually really lucky that they managed to pretty much avoid each other. But yeah, that's just kind of highlights my feelings that this circuit isn't entirely like risk-free. Of course, you're never going to have an entirely safe circuit, but I'm thinking like something like Kota maybe, or even potentially even Qatar or something like down the line could be potentially a bit safer for using chips. But yeah, I think in general I'd be pretty confident in using Limitless here. Let's go back to my current team at the moment. Let's have a quick look in the chat because there's probably some more questions in here. What we got in here? Yeah, Michael, the 456 club. I think you joined me, didn't you, on the Limitless choo-choo train? It's quite funny. We're going on to the Limitless. It was like in the UK it was like 11 11 o'clock to midnight, and I was looking online and stuff, and looking up what I think I should do, and looking at my team and weighing things up. And it was interesting after I eventually decided on Limitless and posted it, and then looking back on it the next day, seeing everyone's replies, like there was some shocked people, but it's like actually it paid off. So who knows. Right, what else we got in here? Running, yeah, we read that one already. Lando had a power slide on the exit of turn 11. Oh, okay, turn 11. So that's not sector 1 then, is it? But still lost a lot of time then. Nevertheless, I'm not surprised. Thanks for that update, Martin. Danny reckon my underlying team. -4 or something. Racing is epic. Thinks Ricciardo's going to lose a few positions. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. I mean, maybe he can hold on to at least a couple of points in the sprint. Trouble is, he's starting in P4. Let's say like people like Piastri, Sainz, they're probably going to overtake. Probably Norris. Yeah, he's likely to drop 3 or 4 positions, and then he's going to finish like P8 or P9, which gives him like 1 point or 0 points, and he's going to end up on like a -3 actually. So it's actually like it doesn't look great in terms of fantasy output for Ricciardo. On the contrary, with in fact, I need to bring this back up. Why have we not got the if I refresh this, is this gonna? Why is there literally, has it not updated the sprint thingy? Sprint qualifying results, and it's still only takes you to practice 1. I don't know, don't get it. But anyway, I remember that both the Saubers and the Williams are at the back, which is pretty good. So in the team that I'm personally looking at, because I've already used Limitless, so I'm not even thinking about it for my team, obviously, because I physically cannot do it. My normal team, sorry, would look something like this. The alternative is be able to swap like an Albon for. Why is this so hard to navigate? Could get like a Sonoda or something, but I don't want to take too many -10s or anything. So this would be a -10 to get to a team like this. And having, I think Hulkenberg was quite far back as well. Oh, no, I'm thinking of Magnussen, aren't I? Hulkenberg got into the top 10. But yeah, I think having Sargent and the 2 Saubers right at the back is pretty good for a fantasy output. So if I take a -10 and go to a team like this, then it looks pretty nifty. Sargent on home soil, back in P19, because Albon got his track limit, track lap time deleted because of track limits. I get there in the end. So yeah, having all these guys at the back is pretty great if I do go for a team like this. Obviously, it does spell potential absolute disaster if there's a collision at the beginning. If like between the P17, 18, 19, 20, if they all like crash into each other and it's just like a -80 from turn 1, it'd be absolutely horrendous. I'm thinking like Silverstone from whenever it was, a year or 2 ago when Guan Yu Zhou went off. But yeah, I digress. Basically, what I'm saying is this is a team that I'm considering quite strongly for a -10 going into this weekend, because I don't have any chips I'm going to use. I've looked at the other chips and none of them are really appealing. The wild card is potential just to save me -10. I feel like there might be better potential for the wild card down the line, particularly with all these upgrades that are churning out over future weeks. Maybe I need to jump back to a really vastly different looking team, which includes McLaren, for example, and I need to jump back to it and I need to make a -20, so the wild card could come in handy there. So I think I would just take the -10 on the chin and go over a team like this. Like I say, Sargent, Zhou and Bottas are all in a good position for the sprint at least, and it bodes well for the Grand Prix that their qualifying pace isn't great. So maybe, they're at least not susceptible to drop in places, minus points for losing positions. Any DNFs or any overtakes that they make are going to gain them points. So yeah, it looks pretty good for that. So this is kind of the team I'm looking at with the 2 times on Verstappen, obviously. The alternative for me would be to just pretty much keep it the same. Potentially trying to make a couple of changes for my budget drivers, but to be honest, if I wasn't going to go with the Verstappen build, I'd probably just leave it the same. Secure my 3 transfers going into Imola, where yet more upgrades are coming. I think Ferrari are slated to bring some sizable upgrades coming into Imola, which is the next race along. So yeah, it's quite appealing to, it's kind of polar opposites. It's either take a -10, bring in the Verstappen build, or just leave it as it is, except I'm probably not going to get as many points as the Verstappen build, but save myself a -10 and also open up 3 free transfers going into the next race. However, if Verstappen build is just clearly the best, which I think it probably is, even though it's kind of sad having a bunch of Saubers and Williams on your team, I do think, even with this team, I've still got a Sauber and a Williams on my team, so I'm not that far away from it anyway. I do think that I might not need the 3 free transfers if Verstappen is just clearly the best team. So maybe I should just go with the Verstappen build right away and not think too much over it. So I don't know what you guys think, because I know a lot of you guys have probably got a very similar team to me. I don't know how many of you guys in the chat have got this particular build, but and if you have got this build, or very similar, give or take a budget driver, but if your kind of team structure is Ferrari, Red Bull, Perez, or Ferrari, Red Bull, Leclerc, for example, or whatever, I'd be interested to know what you guys are thinking. So if you can, let me know in the chat so we can talk it through. Like I said, my general opinion is I'm leaning towards moving into Verstappen, even though it feels a little bit bad. Let's have a look in the chat, see what you guys are saying. Whoops. Limitless. Yeah, that's my team, -10 this week. So Michael, have you got like pretty much the same team as me then, and you're going to the Verstappen build, yeah? It sounds like what's happening. Rob, welcome. In Miami at the moment, I believe. Very, very jealous. If you're theoretically on Limitless, give me your 2 cents on McLaren. I'm locked into Norris. Only locked into Norris. The constructor looks tempting, but doubt I'll go that route. Yeah, I mean that's. I don't know if you listened to me. I don't know how when you just joined. If you've only just joined, I have been talking about that kind of already. But for your viewing pleasure, Rob, I'll go through it again. Basically, because I wasn't entirely sure what happened in that last part of qualifying, and like the McLaren should just kind of nowhere on the soft tyres, but they look really promising on the medium tyres. It seemed like a bigger upgrade than we expected. And actually, I think Piastri, was he P6 or whatever, and Norris in P9, wherever. They're in great positions to do some overtaking if that race car, is a good race car in terms of relative from qualifying to race. So if you did go, it would be a bit of a risk probably going with the McLaren route. But I don't think it's I don't think it's crazy. But it's just you're going with limited or lacking information basically, because we don't know that McLaren's going to be amazing in the race because they've only just brought in this upgrade, and you're kind of gambling on it effectively. So if you're definitely set on using the Limitless, I personally probably would use it. Keep to the Ferrari build just to play a bit safe, because we know the Ferraris so far at least have been the second best team until proven otherwise. I think we kind of stick with that, and we've seen Leclerc just a 10th off pole and Sainz a couple of places back. The Ferraris still look competitive here, even though it's a track that doesn't necessarily suit them, as Carlos Sainz was saying yesterday in an interview. The slower corners, particularly the long corners for the Ferraris, it doesn't particularly suit them. Talking of not suiting them, I'm not a big fan of that Ferrari livery. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah, it's a bit of a half-assed attempt if you ask me. But anyway, that's me digressing. The bottom line is, I would say if I was going Limitless, I'd still be kind of inclined to go Ferrari, but I wouldn't be surprised if McLaren's actually put on a bit of a show this week. But we just don't know. This is the problem. You would be gambling on going for it. Yeah, but then, also, you don't necessarily have to go Limitless. If there's any doubt, you're not sure, and, you think, it's not clear who's better out of Ferraris or McLarens, then you don't have to use Limitless. You don't have to commit to it. And I know, Rob, to bring you up again, I know you've mentioned it in a couple of your videos you've done this week. You've said that you're like 90% sold on using the Limitless, but it's like, don't forget, just because you've said that in your videos, whatever, you don't have to go through with it. You're more than welcome to change your mind. You have every right to change your mind if you want to. So yeah, don't feel like you're committed to it just because you said it. But at the same time, I'd say it's a good choice to go with it at the same time. Let's see what else we've got going on here in the chat. Albon feels like worth keeping. Starting dead last could pick up some decent overtake points. Yeah, to be fair, Albon might actually be a good shout. So if I was to go with the Verstappen build, just leave him in there. Bring in Verstappen. Is this sorted by value? No, it's just randomly sorted by some other thing, which always confuses me. And then bring in Bottas, Sargent. Yeah, and literally just go at this and kind of ignore. I suppose I could also get rid of Guan Yu Zhou. Yeah, I can actually ignore that. Just keep Hulkenberg potentially and just get rid of a Sauber. That's also... Wait, is that... No, that doesn't work. Does it work? Yeah, I've confused myself now. I've done too many changes. Right, so get rid of Stroll, get rid of Perez and Guan Yu Zhou. Can I get everyone in there that I need to for a -10? Bottas. Oh, it's done it again. And Sargent. Yeah, I can actually, can't I? Yeah, I'm not going crazy. Just drop Guan Yu Zhou. Keep the two guys who are P19 and P20 in the sprint. Albon has also said, again, I refer to an interview. I do pay quite a lot of close attention to drivers' interviews. I think they are like probably the best source of information in terms of, they're the ones that are actually in the car, and if they're saying they feel good or they feel bad, then you need to listen to them. And Albon's saying that this is a track that should suit them, which hasn't really been backed up, to be fair, in qualifying. But nevertheless, maybe in the race they'll come a bit better, and with the whole Parc Fermé rules changing a bit as well, they can make some changes perhaps going into the actual Grand Prix bit and maybe improve in terms of race. Maybe similar to China, use the sprint race as a source of learning going into the Grand Prix, and then make the necessary changes. They can do a little bit of experimentation, maybe try out different setups on both Sargent and Albon's car, and then pick the best setup for the Grand Prix, and maybe they'll be pretty well set up for the race on Sunday. Who knows? So yeah, maybe going with this team and just ignoring Guan Yu Zhou is actually the better way. This actually looks kind of better actually. And Bottas has been in good form as well. He's had his DNF, right? He had his DNF failure last week, so he's not due one for a little while, right? So this work, that's how fantasy works, right? He's not going to get another one. Yeah. So yeah, I could well see going for a team like this. It's a good shout that actually the Williams actually might be a good shout, because they've got the third chassis in place as well now. So yeah, kind of interested in that team. Thanks for pointing that out. What else we got in here? Question for Tom, Rob, and Adam: do you have any data info about McLaren's degradation after their new upgrades? Degradation after their new upgrades? Well, we've seen virtually nothing, right? We've seen FP1. There was some long run data floating around on Twitter, but it didn't really look very believable, to be honest. The fact that I think the Alpines were actually faster on the hards than the Red Bulls were on the medium or something random. I can't remember exactly which way around it was, but it looked all a bit wonky, so I don't really trust any of the long run data that's out at the moment. Truth is, we just don't really know. About what, since the upgrades are coming in from McLaren, we just don't know enough about them. They certainly look very promising up until that final part of qualifying where we just witnessed, but yeah, I'm not sure we know much more on that. Lightspeed says V-carb livery blows Ferraris out of the water. I have to admit, do love the V-carb. It's all about, I'll show it off again to anyone who's not seeing it. Got my Miami t-shirt on. That's kind of like same sort of colours as the V-carb. I do like the V-carb livery, I have to say. It's very nice. Norris SQ2 was faster than the Verstappen pole lap. Well, I didn't notice that. Racing is epic. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I definitely think McLaren are packing some pretty big upgrades here, which, yeah, that is a bit of a headache for sure for Limitless users. Like I say, there was a point before the final part of qualifying was like considering how I get McLaren in as my constructor, because they're obviously quite a bit dearer than the Ferraris by roughly 3 million. So it involved dropping like a Stroll down to probably a Tsunoda P15, although he didn't look as confident. I could go with Ricciardo if you wanted, but yeah, I was seriously like, I brought this up on my phone whilst I was watching qualifying. I was like, worth thinking about at least, as the McLarens look so strong. And then in the SQ3, the final part of qualifying, they just were nowhere, like P6, P9, just nowhere. But yeah, let's reset that back. Anyway, what else we got going on here? Thoughts on McLaren? Daniel Rick got back-to-back DNS fantasy. Doesn't work like that for me. Yeah, aiming for Max, Red Bull, Ferrari, Hulk, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Bottas. Yeah, need 2 million. Oh right, need 2 million increase for that. What's your budget, Ryan? Oh right, okay, you're talking to someone else in the chat. I thought you were asking me a question, but yeah, okay. So Gam Mitt says Limitless or Verstappen build. So this is a hard one for me to answer because I've already used my Limitless, so I haven't put like extensive thought into that myself. But I'm here to serve, and I will give you my best shot if I had the Limitless chips still in my pocket. I think the sprint qualifying has the way it's actually let me bring it up again. Let's see if they've updated this flaming website to see if we can get the sprint qualifying. Thank the Lord they've updated it. So here we go. We can see. Can you see that? Hopefully you can just about see that. So we've got Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. So you've got 3 of the guys you're going to have in there. Ricciardo, he's done a great job to get in there, but he's likely to get overtaken by these other guys. Stroll. So Norris being far back, he might have a little bit of trouble, and Stroll on the road is just a danger to everyone involved anyway, as we saw in China. Poor old Ricardo. Oh my God, actually, Stroll's actually really close to Ricardo. We are so gonna see Stroll versus Ricardo on the sprint tomorrow, aren't we? Look at that. Like, Sainz is going to overtake Ricardo, Piastri is going to overtake Ricardo, and then that's it. It's the face-off. Stroll versus Ricardo. If Stroll goes into the back of Ricardo, I will, as long as there's no injuries, I will laugh. To be honest, I will laugh. But yeah, that'll be quite an interesting story for tomorrow. So in terms of Limitless, anyway, we see if we're going with the triple Red Bull, triple Ferrari, Lando Norris most likely. You got your three guys here who will hopefully just race off into the distance, all set. You got Carlos Sainz who'll probably get an overtake point and a position gained, and then get the next lot of maximum points. That's great. That final slot, I think a lot of Limitless users, myself included, despite being down in P9, would still be Lando Norris because he's shown so much promise. There's still a lot of points to be scored. You've got the sprint, and then we've got actual qualifying, and we've got the actual Grand Prix still, so it's still a long way to go. Norris can certainly, stick it up around the front row for the Grand Prix, perhaps. And he's got overtake points, positions gained points potential. The Aston Martins kind of might be a bit of a problem, and catching up to Piastri as well. And that said, though, Piastri's only got, as quoted, 50% of the upgrade that Norris has got, so maybe that gives Norris the edge in the sprint, but will it be enough to actually overtake him? I'm not sure. But it's not all just about the sprint. I think it's also, looking ahead to where the big points are scored in the Grand Prix, and I think Norris is still a big contender for scoring big points in the Grand Prix. Just forget about the sprint for a second. I think Norris is set for some points there. So I do think that there's a lot of points on offer for sure if we go with that Limitless team. And then the other option would be basically go with the Verstappen build. I think a lot of people will already be on the Verstappen build. And is that better than the Limitless? And is it better to say the Limitless? If I had the Limitless chip, I would. I don't know, because I think being a sprint weekend, it's very tempting, but then it's not 100%. I feel like there was just slightly more certainty last race out in China in terms of the optimal lineup for Limitless, and there seemed a bit slightly more certainty about the outcome in terms of points, which is why a lot of people went for it. I think this week there is just slightly less certainty, only a little bit, but it's just slightly less, which is enough if I hadn't already used Limitless to also slightly put me off. Although we can't just hang around waiting for the perfect scenario necessarily, although there is a lot of racing to go. And I know there's this rhetoric about Limitless being better early on in the season, but we didn't hear that a lot last year, to be fair. I mean, I think it's true. That is like a true thing to say. But that didn't stop most of us, holding out our Limitless last year. I held out until Monza. Lots of people, sorry to bring back bad memories, but lots of people held out till Kota Sprint Weekend. So I don't think there's anything wrong with holding out the Limitless chip. We have got those sprints towards the end of the season, and like I say, if McLaren's look as strong as they are, and I'm thinking, and it's still in my head, this was in my head from a couple of weeks ago, like McLaren's around Qatar, we know they're good around high speed, and if they continue to pump out the upgrades that they are, then towards the end of the season, it might be very clear that Red Bull and McLaren are like the best two teams. Anything could happen in that time. That's a lot of races away, and other teams will be, for example, Ferrari will likely to be progressing as well. But I just can't get my head out of like Qatar, to be honest. And if I still had the Limitless chip in my pocket, I'd still be kind of tempted to potentially hold it for Qatar. But yeah, I can also fully understand why people want to use it this weekend as well. And it's a dry race, almost certainly, relatively safe race. No DNS last year. There's some amount of certainty as to the best 5 options to put in your team. So yeah, I think I don't know. There's yeah, I don't know. I know it's not very helpful, but I guess I suppose I don't need to give a final answer because I don't actually have that decision to make myself. But I guess going through my thought process kind of helps you make your own decision, I suppose. Bottom line is I would be open to using Limitless and also be open to using it down the line. And like I say, I can't stop thinking about potential for Qatar, triple McLaren, triple Red Bull, put Leclerc in or whatever, and Bob's your uncle, max points. Yeah, people talking in the chat about building budget. It's just not working out, is it? I mean, it is working out. I mean, look at my team last week. The underlying team from the Limitless, 0.3, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.2, 0.2. Everyone gained value apart from Hulkenberg. But it's really hard to get like that 1 million rise from your 2 times, particularly when it's not Max Verstappen. It just doesn't happen very often. I think if I could just pop over to F1 Fantasy Tools for a second. Let's have a look at this. Look at race results. Just want to see. I probably should have done the maths before this, but I feel like there's not. Let's have a look at the average. So the average in China was 17. So 3.1 times 17 is what, like 53-ish or something. I'm not really good at doing that quick maths, but basically no one was anywhere near getting that in terms of the price change algorithm. I was kind of hoping that Perez would get that, but 40 points is nowhere near 3 times that amount. So it's not really working in terms of budget. What happened last year in the sprint races? When it loads up. Okay, here we go. Let's use Brazil as an example. Rank it by Brazil. 13.2, so times that by 3 is like 40, 41, 42 points, something like that. So Verstappen and Norris, well, Verstappen wouldn't have met the category because he's in the A tier. Norris last year would have got that million price rise. But that's because he got driver of the day, didn't he? And was it Pete? I can't remember the exact. Oh, this is Brazil, isn't it? I'm thinking of Qatar. But anyway, let's have a look. USA average price is 13.4. So again, you need so I guess Norris meets that category there. So on average on a sprint weekend, I guess one person is doing enough. 14.2, so that'd be 14, 28, 42. Roughly 44 points or so. So yeah, Piastri smashed that entirely. Belgium, no one got anywhere near that, without a doubt. Austria, Perez probably got in there. 21. Oh, actually no, 21 times 3.1. That's going to be like 60 odds. So yeah, even Perez with a great score of 51 wouldn't have got the million rise. So I just think budget building on sprint weekends isn't that great, to be honest. And then Azerbaijan, 12.5, quite low actually there. What's that, 24, 36, roughly 39, 40 points. So yeah, Perez would have got the rise by a mile on Azerbaijan. But yeah, my general thinking is actually that this budget building thing isn't going that great. It is gaining slightly more budget than a Verstappen build is likely to do, but it's not like gaining me an extra million or 2 million. It's gaining me an extra 0.3 or 4 million or something. It's really not significant enough to warrant going to this team. So I think the time probably has come to make this change. I'm not going to do it right now because I've still got 17 hours and 57 minutes until we need to lock this in. But yeah, I will be likely running this team for this weekend. I don't know what you guys think of that. Let's have another quick look in the chat. Yeah, so the general sort of thinking here in the chat is basically question marks over Limitless and who's the optimal picks for Limitless. That seems to be the recurring theme, and people asking each other questions in there, which is great for seeing people help each other out. F1 Fancy Pitbull, welcome. Yeah, McLaren's feel set for lots of overtakes, with softs being awful for them for sure. Yeah, so in terms of Limitless, maybe that's the best option, but then Ferrari kind of already locked into the higher scoring positions as well, potentially. Maybe the McLarens won't have enough laps to get far enough up to warrant positions gained and overtakes, but yeah, to be fair, any positions gained in a sprint race will also mean overtakes, because you won't get positions gained via pit stops. It's going to be via overtakes or nothing in the sprint. So yeah, you're effectively in the sprint, like Lando Norris starting in P9, every position he gets is effectively plus 2 points, which is actually pretty nice. So if I got this. Yeah, so let's see P9 for Norris. If he gets realistically Norris, if the McLaren's as good as it potentially could be in race trim, should be able to get Alonso, Stroll. Ricardo might drop back enough for him to be able to catch. So that's 1, 2, 3. Would he get his teammate with just 50% of the upgrade? Possibly 4. So suddenly you're looking at 8 points. If he gets 4 points, that goes up to P5. So that would be 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So 4 plus 5. So suddenly Norris is on 9 points, which is pretty nifty. 9 points is even more than Max Verstappen. So, but that's like pretty much best case scenario. I can't imagine Norris getting too much further. I can't imagine him catching like Verstappen. Well, there's no way he's going to catch Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. I just think that's unobtainable. I think Sainz is unlikely, but possible. So yeah, I think the best case scenario for Norris in the sprint is like plus 8 or 9 points, something like that. And then if you look at that, if you compare that to someone like Carlos Sainz, he's probably going to get plus 2 for overtaking and positions gained on Ricardo. And then he's finished 8, 7, 6, 5, so he'll be on like 7 points. Yeah, it's all very much of a muchness. It's all very close. That's the thing. Of course, there are big points on offer overall in the sprint, but the actual sprint gives fairly minimal points, really. I guess if anything, it's kind of damage limitation, and that makes me quite happy that if I'm running the team that I'm thinking of running, which is this team, having Albon, Sargent, and Bottas literally sat here at the bottom 3 means I literally cannot lose out on positions lost in the sprint, which is great for these budget guys. It's great. So it makes me pretty happy if I'm going for that. Just see there's a DNF for Sonoda. What happened there? Yeah, has anyone got any other questions, any other dilemmas that they're toying with, anything else they want to answer, want me to answer? I'm happy to discuss it. Yeah, put it in the chat now, and I'm like I said, I'm more than happy to talk it through with you. Yeah, so again, F1 Fantasy Hub back in the chat. I feel like a madman going back to Perez, Red Bull, Ferrari for Imola. Do you mean that in sincerity, like you're actually considering going back to that, or you just you would be, I don't know, because if you're going, well, it depends if you go Limitless, you'd be come back, you have 2 subs to go, you probably have to take another -10 to go back to that. I'm not sure why you'd end up doing that, to be honest, but I have honestly like strongly considered actually just like not doing anything to my team, and leaving it as this and having 3 subs for Imola, and hoping Perez can mostly cover off Verstappen's points and then just get the price changes, which just never seem to happen. But I feel like I'm going to switch the Verstappen build, and that'll be the week that Perez and Stroll get their like 1 million rises. That would be sickening. That would be sickening, but it'd be so typical of a fantasy game to do something like that to you. You're patient, you're holding on to these budget increases, you're praying for it to happen, you finally run out of patience, you move to the so-called optimal build, and then you get punished with Stroll, Perez, masterclasses, plus 1 million. Damn it. I can see it happening, but yeah. It is certainly a consideration of this. It is quite a nice looking, well-rounded team, mostly. This is obviously just up for my budget. There'll be people with like 1 million or 2, or maybe even more budget than me, that don't have to look at the likes of Sargent. They could have like Magnussen in here or something instead, which looks a lot more nice to look at. Michael says, I think last week was more of a conundrum. This week we seem all pretty set. I mean, to be honest, last week was a conundrum, or 2 weeks ago was a conundrum for me. I spent most of my stream thinking like, oh, do I want to go Verstappen or do I want to go team on screen, budget building option? Dilemma for ages, and then in the end I just like, okay, we're going Limitless. Screw this, we're going Limitless. This week, I suppose particularly anyone that's used Limitless, we're a lot more restricted in what we can do. We are kind of pretty much restricted to, do we want to go this kind of base build of Perez and budget building, or do you want to go the Verstappen build? And I think most people would kind of generally lean into the Verstappen build, I guess. So yeah, I guess there is less of a conundrum this weekend. I think at the moment I'm more likely to go with the Verstappen build, but I can certainly see some advantages and some positives to going with this Perez Stroll kind of build, looking for some price gains. And if I was to stay with this team, I'd actually probably get rid of Guan Yu Zhou, get Bottas to make sure I've locked in like the lowest possible starting position in the sprint, save a little bit of money as well, and then that will hopefully get me the price gains going into Imola. Then maybe in Imola I can move into the Verstappen build, or even the McLaren build if McLaren suddenly set the world on fire. Fallout reference. But yeah, I do think that it is probably a lot easier for a lot of people this weekend, I would say. Either going Verstappen build or kind of budget building, or just going Limitless and forgetting about it like I did last week in China. Yeah, Rob back in the chat again, chatting to Michael. I can feel the pressure mounting on Rob's shoulders here. The pressure to meet the Limitless points. It's true though, to be fair. Like it is literally a weight off your shoulders. That's kind of one of the reasons why I quite like just using chips. It's probably not optimal, but like psychologically, it's quite nice having used chips, particularly if they've gone well. Obviously, if they've not gone well, it's a bit of a traumatic experience. But particularly if they've gone well, then you can just kind of forget about it. Just like, yeah, nice easy life basically. So yeah, I do think people using Limitless under a little bit of pressure. But I think overall the Limitless team that people are thinking of this weekend should score very well, even if it doesn't like exactly score what happened in China or even outscore what happened in China. I still think it's going to score well enough that it's still a suitable use for it. And let's face it, it's not like everyone that didn't use Limitless in China had a terrible weekend. I know there are a lot of people, they're pretty happy. Lots of people used no negative instead, and people benefited from that, particularly with the Bottas DNF. People dropping back in the race, people like Hulkenberg dropping back in the sprint and whatever. So yeah, people using no negative made up a healthy amount of points. So it's all swings and roundabouts, and I wouldn't worry too much about what other people are doing, and I'd more focus on what's right for your team in the moment. Yeah, try not to worry, try not to feel too much pressure about matching other people's points, and just think about objectively, is it the correct decision for my team, and go for it if you think it is. Brazil Limitless was Merc Catastrophe. Oh, did you go Brazil Limitless, Michael, last year? Oh dear. Oh, Leclerc DNF. Oh, is that when Leclerc like spun off before the race even started? Sorry, am I bringing back some trauma from last year, Michael? Yeah, still suffering from the 2023 Kota Limitless PTSD. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so am I. I mean, I didn't use Limitless, but that's when I have my free times, and I had the 2 times on Hamilton, and I'm still haunted when I woke up the next morning and saw that -8 on Lewis Hamilton on my 2 times driver. I was horrified. So yeah, still experiencing the same sort of trauma as you, Rob, just in a slightly different way, I guess. Okay, so for the Verstappen build, would you add Magnussen if you had the budget? Let's move to the Verstappen build for the moment. Oops, can't scroll to save my life. Verstappen, and where is he? Where's Mr. Sargent? So this is the team that I'm kind of looking at. So are you thinking of moving like Hulkenberg out for Magnussen? Is that your question? I don't actually have enough, but is your question like Magnussen in for Hulkenberg? Let's move it back to here. I think Hulkenberg's in a position where he's got Russell and Hamilton behind him, but the Mercedes are just so bad. Like compared to what we're used to seeing from the Mercedes in recent years. Well, maybe not even recent years anymore. Like years gone by. Mercedes are just. This is with an upgrade as well. P11, P12. Hamilton like on the radio saying I've got nothing after getting kicked out. Not even getting in the top 10. So yeah, I think Hulkenberg might be in a reasonable position to be able to hold that position potentially. Everyone else below him, you know, the only real risk is the Mercedes, but I just don't think they're especially great at the moment. Magnussen and P14. Yeah, you know, we know Magnussen's a slightly worse qualifier in general than Hulkenberg, which is in general pretty good for fantasy. So yeah, if I had the luxury option of making that change, if I was wildcarding, if I just had a free transfer to use, then it would probably be appealing to go Hulkenberg down to Magnussen. Magnussen keeps churning away those plus 0.5s in budget increase each week, and you can see he's pulling in reasonable results each week. For his price, he's pulling in basically a point per million, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I think overall, if I had the luxury move of bringing in Magnussen for a Hulkenberg, I probably would. I'll be running Mag. Yeah, F1 Fantasy Pit War. I agree. I just got why I agree. But yeah, Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Piastri. I was like, this must be a Limitless team, right? For a second, I was like, you've got the budget for. I was like, no, it just goes on and on. This is Limitless, okay. So Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Piastri, and Red Bull, Ferrari when using Limitless. Okay, so you're going without Norris. I think I'd still be inclined to go Norris if I was going Limitless over Piastri. I think Piastri's still a fine driver, but I think Norris has probably just got the edge on him just slightly. He's also got the full upgrade, whereas Piastri's only got 50% of the upgrade this week. Piastri doesn't get the full upgrade until Imola in a couple of weeks' time. And I think also in terms of positions gained and overtakes in the sprint at least, Norris is in a better position being back in P9. He's got a bit more potential for getting those positions gained and overtakes, whereas Piastri is more likely to get like maybe a position, 2 if he has a great race, and that's about his limit. I think Norris has got that slightly more potential, and he's also got better potential for the Grand Prix, for qualifying and the Grand Prix. So I think overall I'd edge towards Norris over Piastri for Limitless, but I don't think it's a bad shout over Piastri. Is this historically a high overtake track or not? Well, should we have a quick look on F1 Fantasy Tools? It should be able to tell us. How do we do overtakes? If we just like get rid of all this. Oh, it's just lagging. I've already clicked it. Get rid of that. We do overtakes. USA. Which one was it? It was the earlier one, right? Isn't it? So it's this one. This is 2023. So overtakes, average overtakes 4.7 last year. And you look at against what we're comparing that to, 3.7. So it's definitely above average there. But then is that just because it's a sprint? Probably because it's a sprint. Spa's not got much. I think in general, I can't imagine there'll be that much overtaken. There are a couple of heavy braking zones past the long straights, but apart from that, maybe into turn 1. And the back straight, and also there are like 3 quite long straights with like quite heavy braking zones. So there are definitely some overtake potential, but I don't think it's necessarily a great track for overtaking. What else have we got in here? The other sprint 6.7. Yeah, so you compare it to the other sprints last year: 6.7, 6.3, 8.5. In fact, compared to the. Wait, am I on the right? This is the right. Oh god. Oh yeah, because it wasn't a sprint last week. That makes a lot of sense. This is very hard to compare in that case. It's very hard to compare because it wasn't a sprint in Miami last year. Yeah. Well, in that case, let's just compare it to non-sprint weekends then. So 4.7 is higher than Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Monaco. Surprise. Fewer than Spain, more than Canada. And so actually, yeah, like towards the end of the season, the overtakes go mental, to be fair, but there's a lot of sprint weekends. So actually, there's probably more overtakes than I would anticipate, to be honest, but my gut feeling is it's not especially great for overtaking. Oh my god, what is this? Renault, spam in, put some likes. Yeah, thanks, Renault, but please don't spam the chat. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, please don't spam the chat, because it doesn't make nice, like, viewing for people's eyes when they just see all those exclamation marks. It's like looking at a barcode and makes your eyes go funny. Right, what else is going on? I think we've got maybe a few more questions, and I think I'll probably wrap it up because it is 20 past 11 here. I've actually been awake since 5 a.m. today because I've not been well the last few days, and I've, not to tell you my full sob story, but yeah, I've not been well, not been sleeping well, and I've been awake since 5 a.m. and it's now almost midnight. So yeah, I do think I need to wrap this up in a few minutes. So yeah, I think if anyone's got any like final thoughts or questions for me or anyone else in the chat, then now will probably be a good time to chuck it in there. But yeah, I probably will wrap up in sort of 5-10 minutes. F1 Fantasy HQ had a nice. Sorry. Rob, yep. Thanks as always, mate. Have a great weekend. You too. Like I say, very, very jealous of you being in Miami. I guess that's the benefit of being in America. Although I suppose it makes it difficult for coming across to like European races and stuff. But I guess when you live in America, which I think you do, right? You live in New York or something. Yeah, certainly take advantage of the American races, 3 of them this year. Yeah, have a great weekend. Enjoy the race. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. So yeah, have a good one, Rob. Michael, if you're leaving us, then thanks very much. Thanks for all your interaction in the chat, your thoughts, your comments on all my videos and everything, and your support as a member. Thank you for that. Jose, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. Is it Jose or is it Jose? Is it like a hard J or is it a H? I'm not sure because I know different people say it differently, but I want to get that right because I know you definitely comment on my videos and you join the chat, and I don't want to like call the wrong name out. But yeah, Mr. Senor Ortiz, I'll go with that. Great luck to you, Tom, and everyone else too. Yeah, thanks as always, Jose, for all your interaction. I think you're also on Twitter, aren't you? So yeah, good interaction with you there. Perez or Verstappen build for Limitless week has to be prepared for Imola. Perez or Verstappen build for Limitless so as to be prepared for Imola. I'm not entirely sure exactly what you mean there, but right. I'm literally just going to go through the final few things in here. I think I'm going to wrap it up, to be honest. Fantasy side, how do you think Hamilton will perform this weekend? He seems a little low on motivation. Yeah, I'm not sure he's low on motivation. I just think the Mercedes is just not good enough anymore, is it? They're just out of ideas. They're trying different things, but nothing's working. Upgrades are coming onto the car, and the Mercedes just doesn't look good. Hamilton's certainly like dreaming of wearing some Ferrari red sooner rather than later. Maybe working with Adrian Newey, that would be, a match made in heaven, I suppose. But yeah, I just feel, I don't know, it's a little bit, yeah, I don't know, I just feel like Hamilton's maybe a little bit on a downer, but he's such like a generally positive person whenever he talks. But yeah, I don't know, it must be a bit frustrating when you're used to just winning, pole, to be languishing, not even getting to the top 10 in their sprint quali as an example. It must be hard for him, but at the same time, boo-hoo. We all have tough lives. What's else going on? How can you earn extra money on a fantasy team? You mean extra budget, I guess. That's a whole nother story. But basically, you got to look at preferably like the C tier assets and who are the most optimal C tier assets. So likes of Lance Stroll, the Haas drivers are pretty good for it as well. This kind of team that I've already kind of got is apparently good for building budget. It hasn't quite worked out that way, but it's got the highest potential, the highest ceiling for building budget as opposed to a Verstappen build. But yeah, I guess to round off, like I say, I will. That's not what I wanted to do. I will round off with my final thoughts of where I'm going personally, and where I'm going personally is this build of Sargent and Bottas, 0.7 in the bank with this team. I didn't use this build for Japan, and I kind of regretted it to a small extent. And I've got the opportunity for this exact team basically again now, and it's a sprint weekend as well where Verstappen's points should hopefully be fully maximised, providing there's no surprises or disasters for Verstappen. So yeah, my final thoughts for me personally are I'm likely to go with this, but I'm still open to kind of stick with the Perez build, but we still got like a whole day basically to actually make that final decision. But where I'm leaning to at the moment is this build for me personally. So yeah, I'll just read the final few things in the chat and then I'll say my goodbyes. Oh, did you answer me? It's hard in Spanish, but don't worry, both are okay. So Jose, it's Jose, right? Jose Ramon Ortiz. There we go. That's my best Spanish accent. Buena suerte. No, is that right? Buena suerte. Buena suerte. Something like that. My Spanish used to be a lot better than it is now. Sorry. Do you think Newey goes to Ferrari? I wouldn't be surprised if he does. In the interview with Martin Brundle, he sounded like he's more than happy just to have a break. But he did emphasise that it was a break and he's enjoying spending some time with his wife, going on the boat when he eventually gets his new boat or whatever. But yeah, I feel like there was an inkling there that it is a break and he'll be back. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ferrari. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Please help. I need to get more budget. Yeah, would you use a wild card here? Wildcard is completely team dependent and what you anticipate needing further down the line. Last year I used my wildcard to save me a -4. Now this year the penalties are -10 for extra transfers. And this team on screen right now, which is what I'm leaning towards for this weekend, would require a -10. So I could very easily use them at wildcard. But I'm thinking that there's a long old season. Upgrades are constantly getting churned in. We might need some changes further down the line. We might need some changes to set up like a 3 times DRS boost down the line. If we're sat with a team like this and we need to potentially drop one of the big constructors down to a cheaper option potentially to enable the best second driver to use the 2 times. So maybe I don't know if that's thinking a bit too complicated and too complex into the future, but it's a possibility that we might need a wild card to set up our teams for like a 3 times potential. I don't know, down the line. There's just some food for thought. So yeah, maybe I'm thinking I'll probably save the wild card and just take the -10 on the chin. But I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. I think we'll kind of wrap it up there. Thanks very much for joining me. What would be about an hour, just under an hour. Not bad, considering like I say, I've kind of overcooked it this week. Trying to plow through at work despite not being well. So yeah. Thanks very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure chatting to you guys as always. If you haven't already, probably have if you haven't already, but if you haven't, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll be back for some Imola thoughts. Yeah, we've got a couple of weeks until Imola, and yeah, it's going to be interesting because we've got the McLaren upgrades this weekend. We've got potential Ferrari upgrades, and probably quite a lot of upgrades coming to Imola because it's the first European race. So there'll probably be a bunch more upgrades, lots of different changes, so lots of interesting things to happen. But in terms of maximising my sprint weekend points, I'm probably going with a team like this, hoping Sargent continues to avoid DNFs. Please, come on. But yeah, who knows. Thanks very much for joining me, guys, and I'll catch you soon for some Imola thoughts. Good luck, whichever way you go, whether it's Limitless, Verstappen, budget building, or other. I'm sure there'll be some other people doing some other wacky things. But yeah, thanks very much for joining. Been a pleasure. Good night, good afternoon, wherever you are, and good luck. See you soon. Have a nice weekend.